Hi everyone, it's nice to see you again. As a reminder, my name is Kathie and I use she, her, hers pronouns. Today, I'll be showing you some more really cool and interesting music that you might not have seen before. So definitely be sure to keep an open mind because we're going to redefine music today. So today we'll be talking about something called non-traditional scores. So as a reminder, traditional scores are music that looks a lot like this. There's music notes that we're all probably pretty familiar with. As performers, we often just read the music and we play what's on the page. So today we're talking about something called non-traditional music scores. And what does non-traditional music scores mean? Basically, any kind of music score that doesn't use normal music notes. So an example is like this. This is called a graphic score. Some of you might remember this from our last video where we talked about the different elements of graphic scores. We talked about how shapes, color, lines, and emotions can be symbols for different sounds. And there are also graphic scores that look like this, that use cartoons and funny images to display music. So the reason why this kind of music exists is because the composers who wrote these pieces really wanted everyone to be involved in performing music. With traditional music scores, you really have to know how to read music and probably even play an instrument to be able to participate. So with graphic scores, oftentimes it allows everyone to participate. Even if you don't really know how to play an instrument or know how to read music, anybody can participate. And another reason why this kind of scores were invented was because these composers really wanted to express something they couldn't with traditional music scores. So today we'll talk about 3 different kinds of music scores. One of them uses cartoons. Another one of them is set up sort of like a game, and it uses words to describe sounds that as performers we will play. And there's one more that's a graphic score that uses a painting to show music. So we'll all get a chance to perform all 3 of these pieces today, and you'll see and understand as we go how a lot of the music that these composers were writing aren't things that you can really write with traditional music notation. So I want you to keep that in mind as we go through this lesson. All right, so before we begin, we will do a mindfulness moment. So with music like this, it's really a special opportunity for you to express yourself, your own personality, your own feelings, what you like and dislike. So we'll take this moment now to really hone into ourselves and kind of settle in for the day. So I want you to close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. I want you to ask yourself, what was the best thing that happened in your day today? And perhaps what didn't go as well or go as planned today? And lastly, how are you feeling right now? As I just mentioned earlier, graphic scores and non-traditional music scores are a really good opportunity for you to express yourself, your feelings. So really take this class today to really express yourself however you would like. So you could go ahead and open your eyes. Before we get started, there will be opportunities for movement today, and maybe lots of it. So you're going to want to clear up the space around you. As you can see, I'm standing up today with no chair in sight besides that one that's far away. So if you need some time, go ahead and pause the video and move whatever is in your way out of the way so that you can move around safely. And now let's talk about our materials that we need for today. So the first thing you need is a hard surface that you'll be putting your things on. So this is a hard table. So maybe a coffee table, the floor, countertop, whatever you have. The hard surface is really for you to put your items on that we need for today. And we'll also be needing our 5 found sounds that we talked about in my very first video. You might remember we took these 5 different items and we made them instruments, and we improvised on them and learned a lot about the different sounds that you can make with these instruments. If you didn't watch that video, go ahead and take some time to go watch that very first video where we talk about found sounds. So those items are, the first is paper. And then remember, any kind of paper is okay. We have copy paper here, a magazine, and just some gift wrap paper. And what sounds can you make with paper? So you could crumble it, shake it. You can perhaps rip a piece of paper, or you could crumple it. So make sure you have some paper, and you'll also need silverware. And remember, any kinds of silverware will be good. So we have metal silverware here, some plastic, some wood. And what sounds can you make with this? So we talked about hitting them together. You can hit different parts of them together. So maybe the skinny sides. Maybe you have some plastic knives and you could take this ridged end and rub them against each other. All different kinds of silverware will work for this. And you'll also need some water bottles. So any kind of water bottle is good. We have a hydro flask here that makes these cool sounds. You might have done this when you're walking around and hit this against the table. So cool sounds like that. Or maybe you have a plastic water bottle like this that you could crumple. And if there's water in it, you can shake it. You'll also need dried beans and rice. So mine are in these jars. Yours could be in a bowl, a plate, just on the table, or even in a cardboard box. So what you could do with these, you can shake them if they're in a container. Sounds a lot like a maraca or a shaker. You could take them out and drop them one by one, like this. And other cool things. And lastly, you'll need some coins. So what can you do with coins? You can have them in your hands and you can shake them. You can hit them together. If you have quarters, you'll notice that there are little ridges at the side that you can rub against each other. Or you could rub these against the table. So those are the 5 instruments that you will be needing today. And there's one more instrument that you actually need today. You need your voice. So we'll be doing one piece that uses our voice. So, if you need some water, get some water to clear up your throat to get ready to do some vocal performing. So quick note on safety. As always, I want you to be safe and make sure you don't do anything that hurts yourself, somebody else, breaks anything. And this also applies to your voice. So I know a lot of the times we really want to scream super duper loud, but that actually hurts your own voice. So use appropriate loudness of your voice. And also sometimes if you scream in someone's ear, it'll hurt their ears. So just use your best judgment and you'll be good, but still be really creative. Okay, so now we can begin. So let's pull up the very first piece. Okay. So this first piece that we will be looking at is a graphic score by the composer Kathie Berberian. So this piece is called Strip City, and she uses cartoons to show music. So let's look through a few pages. So you see how she uses really fun text, this explosion graphic that you see in comics. You see funny photos here. Let's look at another page. You see more weird text. You see little trains over here and worm eating an apple, weird lines, lots more text, eyeballs. So what she did here was she wrote a piece for a vocalist, one singer, and she really wanted the vocalist to be able to make really weird sounds and also act at the same time. So she didn't know how to do that with traditional music, with just music on a staff. So she decided to use words and pictures instead to show the performer how to perform this piece. So do you see these 4 lines here? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So this actually works just like a traditional music staff, where the lowest is the lowest sound you make and the highest is the highest sound you make. So you'll see like something like this goes from kind of medium to a little higher, and this is the highest note. So what we'll do now is I'll perform a little bit of this piece, and then I want you to see if you could follow along. And then after I perform, you will get a chance to perform this as well. All right, let me drink some water first. Okay. Climb, 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 climb. Gosh. Bling, 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 ding! Phew, phew. Knock, knock. Ouch. Ooh. The weather tomorrow will be mostly cloudy. Knock, knock. Huh? Oh. Oh. Achoo. Boom. Ba-boom. Bloop, 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 bloop. Brrr. Boing. And that's the piece, some of the piece. So as you can tell, I had to do a lot of acting to show off what the composer was saying, right? So what Kathie really wanted to do was to show that music can be so much more than just maybe just singing. It could be acting, a little performing. There's lots of movements. So that's why she decided to use cartoons to show the music instead of just traditional music notation. So now that you've seen me perform it, it's your turn to perform it. So we'll start from a different place. We'll start from here. Let me move this around. Okay, so what we'll do is I will point at the places that we'll be going through, and you can make all kinds of fun sounds and movements that you're inspired to do based on the pictures, the words that you see. And I'll also talk through it and also show you what I would do if I was reading this. So let's begin. Okay, so let's, wait, hold on. All right, let's start here. So here I see some cats. And I go meow, 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 really high. And I see a dog here. And the dog found the cat. The cat's hissing at the dog. The dog's chasing the cat. And then here, maybe you can make lots of banging noises because they're chasing each other. And then the dog caught the cat. And then here. Pluck, blick, pluck, blick, pluck. And then this right here, it might remind you of a banjo, so you can pretend you're playing a banjo. Pluckety, pluckety, pluck, pluckety, pluckety, pluck. And then, right, next page. So here, do you see some of these footsteps? Maybe you could be stomping around right now. You get to a door. You open the door, creak, and something in the door makes a lot of different sounds. Scares you. Ugh. And you fall to the floor. Thud. And then you walk away. my favorite page. So these are like binoculars. So you can maybe put your hands up to your eyes like binoculars. And then you see how it says, it's a bird. Pretend you see a bird. It's a bird. And then you're looking around. Wait, maybe it's not a bird. No. Look sideways. It's a plane. No, it's not a plane. It's Superman. All right. So congrats. That was using cartoons as music. As you have seen, how would you show this page on traditional music? It's impossible, right? So that's why Kathie decided to use pictures and like words and different written sounds to have the performer perform the piece. So that's using cartoons as music. Next, we'll switch gears. We'll look at a piece that uses words as music. So what do I mean by that? I literally mean using words. So this piece is by composer Glenn. And what Glenn did was he made a deck of cards with words on them. So you probably see here, there's lots of different words on these cards. And Glenn wanted this piece to kind of be like a game. So what Glenn would do is Glenn would choose a random card from the deck and then have the performer react to what's written on the card. So for example, he'll put down the word delay. So as a performer, who is me and you today, we will play the word delay. So for this activity, we'll use our found sounds. And you could choose any of their found sounds. You could use just one. You could use all of them. You could switch them around. All are good. So if I wanted to play delay, what would I do? I grab my coins, and maybe I'd play them on the table like this. Do you hear how it's two different sounds? It's kind of like a delay. And then maybe the next card shows and it says play along. So I could play them together. All right, so now it's your turn. I'll show you some cards at random and then you can choose any of your found instruments and use that to play the word that you see on the card. So let's begin. First card you see is switch. All right, so maybe this means you're playing a paper and you just keep switching instruments and then you play the utensils and you switch instruments, you switch your beans. Back to paper. And then what if we see the word release? Maybe it means you literally drop the paper, you release it. Pick it up, and you release it again. Do it again. And then you see the word strike. What does strike make you think of? Maybe you grab your utensil and you hit your water bottle because you're striking it. Maybe you hit the table. What about, you see the word new? Maybe that means get a new instrument. You try a new instrument. And then the word twist. Twist the paper. And then lastly, the word noise. This should be a fun one. All right, so that is Glenn's piece that uses words and cards. So you might ask, why did Glenn write this piece on cards and why did he want it to be completely random for the performer? So Glenn wrote this on cards and because he wanted to be like a game for the performer. He wanted the performer to have lots of fun and he wanted the performer to come up with things on the spot. So because you don't know what card is coming next, you have to think on your feet and come up with new sounds basically as soon as these cards show up. So by doing this, Glenn wanted the performers to get the opportunity to be super expressive and come up with new sounds that they might not have come up with before. And so the very last piece we'll look at today is a piece that uses painting as music. So let me grab that real quick. So some of you might remember from the last video that we talked a lot about how color can remind us of emotions and how those emotions can help us come up with sounds. So you might remember we talked about the color red a lot. So the color red reminds most of us about being angry, upset, or something really loud and explosive. So when you see this painting right here, this might remind you of loud sounds. So this piece is by a good friend of mine named Rebecca Keller. And what she wanted to do was she wanted to create paintings because she also really loves visual art and she loves painting. So she wanted to create a painting that would inspire performers to come up with interesting and weird sounds. So there are 5 different paintings. We'll just look at probably 3 of them today, and then we'll talk through each of them. So this first one, as you can see, has lots of red and lots of black and a little bit of white. So like we've said earlier, red reminds us of something loud, explosive, angry. And then there's also this black on the side that you might see. So this black reminds me of something scary and dark. And so when I see this, I'm reminded of something exploding and something really scary. So how I would play something like this is maybe I would grab my utensil and my black water bottle and make really loud, explosive sounds. Something like that. So with paintings that are used as scores, there's lots of different ways you can read this. So one way to read it is you can look at the whole entire piece and be inspired by the whole piece, or you can start in one corner and move around the piece. So I'll show you another example. This one. So for this one, maybe I would start up here and move over here and then just keep going down, or I just play one of these at a time rather than the whole thing. So there's different ways you can interpret it, and it's entirely up to you. And so this is where your own personal likes and dislikes come into play. So if you like looking at the whole piece and playing just the whole piece, you could do that. If you like following different parts, that's okay too. So I will play this piece as a quick example, and then I'll let you have a chance. So one question you might have right now is, how do you know when to stop? So for pieces like this, usually the composer tells you how much time they want you to play this piece for. So for this piece, I'm going to play this for 30 seconds, and I have a timer. So I'm going to time myself for 30 seconds where I play just this piece. See if you can follow along as I'm playing through this piece. If you can see where I'm starting from, if you think I'm playing from the whole page instead of just one part, see if you can figure that out. All right, that was about 30 seconds. So could you tell what I was doing? I was ripping the paper in the shape that the piece was in. So do you see these like kind of triangle shapes? I was ripping the paper in this shape. And if you, I don't know if you could tell, but I was ripping the paper in 2 different styles. So one was really aggressive and hard, and then one was really soft and a little bit slower. So when I was ripping the paper really aggressive and hard, it was the red angles, because as we talked about, red reminds me of like angry. And then blue, so these are blue, it's really dark blue, reminds me of something more gentle and soft. So when I was ripping the paper in those shapes, I was ripping them a little softer. All right, so it is now your turn. We're gonna play a different one. So we're gonna play this one. So you can choose whether or not you want to play the whole piece just by looking at the whole thing, or if you just want to play parts of it. You know, you can move from the line up the first row to the second part to here. You could be inspired by the shapes. So you might see circles, little dots, or these lines. You could be inspired by the colors. You'll see green, purple, and blue. You can be inspired by how dark the colors are or how light they are. So this really is entirely up to you. There's no wrong answers, and you can be super expressive. So you can use your five found instruments, or you can also use your voice if you'd like. So go ahead. I'll give you a minute to play this, and I'll tell you when the time is up. But I'll also talk through some of this. And you can begin now. So something I would do is I'd probably follow the top line. Maybe these little dots remind you of dropping some beans or rice. Little beans like this. Maybe how darkly shaded it is here. It reminds you of really loud sound, so you could take your utensils and hit the table pretty hard, or with water bottles. And then you see as it goes from dark to light. So maybe you go dark, like louder to lighter, louder to lighter. All right. And your minute is up. If you want to go and play this piece again, you could go ahead and pause the video so that the picture stays up, and you can play it some more. So that concludes the 3 different scores that we will be talking about today. So as a reminder, the first score that we talked about was one that used cartoons. The second one was the one that uses cards and words. And the last one was the one that used paintings. So all 3 of these, you might have noticed, were super expressive and super different and use lots of techniques. So how would you write this in a traditional music score? You probably wouldn't, right? Because how do you express something from painting to music notes? How do you express some weird sounds into music notes? It doesn't really work. So by using non-traditional scores, you kind of open up to endless possibilities of things that you can make. The sounds that you can make, the music that you can write, and so on and so forth. And the best thing about this type of music is that it allows the performer, which again is you and I today, to be part of the creative process. With normal traditional scores, usually what happens is the composer writes the music and then you play what's on the page. And that's still really awesome and super fun, but this is just a different type of way to make music. So with non-traditional scores, the composer writes something, but as performers, we get to interpret it however we want. So if we all played the same one piece, none of us would play it exactly the same. So even you and your best friend, you might not play the piece exactly the same. So it, again, opens up the whole world of music to endless possibilities. So after class today, I hope you continue to explore this kind of music. Maybe you can look at a painting on your wall, or an art project that your sibling brought home, or even one of your own art pieces. Could you make that into a musical piece with your found instruments, or maybe even your saxophone, your piano, whatnot? All right, well, I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me today. Bye.